When it comes to getting lean, the way that most people go about it is completely wrong. People go for the extreme, unsustainable diets with massive, huge deficits, and then they use the gym to spend an hour on the treadmill. Then they end up burning out and quitting a few months later. This is why 90% of people who make a significant amount of weight loss gain it all back within 2 years. So in this video, I'm going to go over exactly how you can get shredded and why it's so easy, and just a few tactics which I used to make staying lean and keeping my six-pack year-round seamless. The first key point is that you should be using the gym to build muscle. So many people make the mistake of going on the treadmill when they go to the gym for an hour. Not only is it boring and not only are they going to burn out, but then after doing this for an extensive amount of time, people end up getting into a position where they're skinny fat, where they don't really like the way that their physique actually looks. And also, people just end up burning out because doing all this hard work and going on the treadmill for so long is going to lead to your body seeking replenishment, and it just ends to you binge eating and overeating, and you actually work against yourself in a lot of ways. So the two factors which determine your metabolism are how active you are and how much muscle mass you have. So if you're spending this time in the gym, when you're in the gym, those 3 hours a week, to build muscle and to actually get stronger, it means that your resting metabolic rate is going to be so much higher, and you're therefore going to burn a lot more calories at rest. So if you really want to stay lean, get shredded and lean down, one of the best tactics you can use is use that time in the gym, those 3 hours or 4 sessions or 3 sessions per week when you go to the gym. You should be using them to do high intensive resistance training in a moderate rep range so that you can actually really build up muscle, just to make this process so much easier. And then when you do burn out that fat, instead of being in a position where you're skinny fat, you actually look a lot nicer and you're a lot happier with the way your physique looks because you've built up that muscle and you've leaned down on some of that fat. My next point is that low carb diets and keto and a lot of these extreme carnivore diets that you see people do, a lot of them actually have a net negative impact because a lot of this is just too extreme for you to handle and you haven't built up that discipline to actually burn down some of this fat. So for example, if you did an extreme calorie deficit of about 500 to 600 a day, this is going to cause an excess amount of cortisol, and it's just going to spike your blood sugar, which is therefore going to massively increase your cravings because you haven't built up that habit and you haven't slowly implemented a slight calorie deficit. So what happens when you do this is it's going to spike your cortisol, it's going to lead to you having worse sleep, worse digestion, and your cravings are going to increase. And then eventually you're just going to burn out and you're just going to start binge eating because you're going to be constantly starving the whole time. So this is why extreme diets do not work. Things like keto, things like carnivore, they actually have a huge impact on your testosterone and your natural hormonal production. It's also going to massively affect your energy, your mood, your sleep quality. And overall, your standard and quality of life is going to go down significantly when you go for these extreme diets, which is so common when people try and get lean and shred some fat. So instead of doing this, it's a lot more beneficial to go with a different approach, which I'll recommend in a second, which isn't going to have all these negative downsides, and it's going to be something which is going to make fat loss so much more enjoyable, which you can actually stick to. So the diet which I recommend, which just makes fat loss so much more effortless, is to just have a slight calorie deficit of 100 to 200 calories per day, and also just have a balance of the key macronutrients, which is protein, fats, and carbs. People who go extreme and they avoid carbs, it ends up crashing their mood and their energy. And also, they feel so much less satiated after eating because carbohydrates are often the most satiating food you can have. If you think about potatoes, white rice, sourdough bread, all of these things are going to make you feel so much more full and satisfied off less calories. So when people avoid carbohydrates, this is a huge reason why people just end up pulling back that elastic band and then slingshotting themselves into a position where they just completely burn out and they just start binge eating. It's because often they have too many cravings and they're starving the whole day, and it's just an unsustainable diet. So I found that when I started going heavy on carbohydrates and making this about 50 to 60% of my meals, my cravings just went away and I was so much more satiated just from eating key foods like potatoes, white rice, sourdough bread, and just these key carbohydrates just made getting lean and staying in that slight deficit so much more enjoyable. And another point on top of this is you should be eating food that's whole food and that's organic and that's healthy for you. It shouldn't be food that's heavily processed with additives, sweeteners, etc. Because all this is going to do is, it's just going to spike your blood sugar, it's going to affect your gut lining, it's going to affect your digestion, and it's just going to make the whole process so much more unenjoyable. You're going to feel flat, and it's just going to make it just a torturous experience, which means you're just going to eventually end up burning out at the end of it. So I highly recommend eat whole, healthy, organic foods. This is going to make you feel satiated off less calories. It's going to make it so much more enjoyable, and you're going to find an increase in your mood, your energy, and everything else. Another key point which so many people miss out on is intermittent fasting. Just take off the first 4 hours of your day and don't eat anything. Fasting has proven benefits to increase your growth hormone, and it's also going to increase your neuroplasticity in your brain as well. So people think that fasting is bad for you. It's actually the opposite. And if you can just have a 4-hour period in the morning where you skip breakfast and you don't eat, your body's just going to start to naturally start burning into your natural fat storage, and you're just going to burn fat so much easier. So if you give yourself an 8-hour window after this where you have one meal for lunch and then one meal for dinner and then maybe a snack in between, you're going to find that your brain is just going to latch onto these times as the time zones when you're allowed to eat, and it's going to make you get rid of this endless snacking so much more seamless and so much easier. So I found that doing this and having 2 large meals per day and then another snack in between is absolutely essential to burn fat. It just makes the process so much more enjoyable, more fun, and it just makes it a lot easier. My final point is just going outside and walking and getting 10,000 steps per day. Walking is a moderate cardiovascular activity which is going to burn a significant amount of calories without actually making you more hungry and increasing your appetite. This is why it's such an effective tool for fat loss. If you compare this with going outside, getting healthy levels of vitamin D, which is going to activate your mitochondria, it's just going to make you a more active person overall, which again is going to help you burn down that fat and increase your metabolism. And if your metabolic rate is higher, like I said before, you're just going to burn more calories at rest, and it's just going to make this whole process so much more seamless. I also recommend doing zone 2, just do 1 to 2 days per week to start off with for 20 to 30 minutes. This is great for your mood, it's great for your heart health, and it's just great for your brain. And overall, it's just going to really help increase the amount of fat you can burn without creating excess amount of cortisol or creating an excess increase in your appetite, because you're not going to be completely depleted after doing zone 2 for 20 to 30 minutes. So this is another great habit to implement into your routine. So this is exactly how you can make getting shredded so much easier. And I found that when I started implementing a lot of these habits, it was just so much easier to burn down on my calories and to really just stay lean and keep a six-pack. Whether you're bulking or whether you're cutting, if you just implement a lot of these habits I mentioned today, you're going to find getting lean just come easily and naturally.